up, guys? Charles here. I don't know how long it's been, but I know it's been a while, and I'm finally back. My quarters just ended. I'm on break again, and so much has happened since the last time I posted. It seems like this happens every time, you know, I have to take a small hiatus, and it's just been absolutely amazing. Cross-country season has just ended. I'm now looking forward to indoor season, just finishing up my break now, and starting to train again, so things are going amazingly well. With the channel as well, I'm currently in the process of finding an editor. This video will likely be edited by them, whoever they end up being. I got so many video ideas and so much stuff I want to do, and I kind of want to get it out more consistently than I am now because, you know, ideas are pinging all over the place, and as I go and try to edit, do school, running, all that, it just gets kind of messy. I'm hoping to start posting, you know, again, as consistently as possible, and being able to do it during the school year, which is something I've not been able to do for a while. So that's super exciting. But also, I want to fill you guys in. For those of you who haven't been following the season, I was kind of thinking of a way that I could get people up to speed, you know, for those who were following along, giving some insight into what the season was like, what I thought about it as a whole, kind of walking through it in a fun way that wasn't just me talking to the camera, which I have done in the past, but I just wanted to do something different and something I thought would be fun. So I thought it would be an interesting idea to take every race I ran this cross-country season and try and put it onto some kind of a tier list. I've never done something like this before, so, you know, I'm gonna do my absolute best. So I'm gonna try and go from start to finish, introduce the race, talk about the individual aspects, the team aspects of it, what I liked about it, what the takeaways were, and then kind of throw it on the list, and hopefully we'll have, by the end of it, some kind of look at what my season looked like. And who knows, maybe if you guys like it, it's something we can do after every season. So without further ado, let's get into the tier list for my 2021 cross-country season. Alright, so what you see here is this tier list template I found online. I don't think any race this season was particularly bad, so I probably won't be using the lower tiers, but yeah, let's start at the beginning. We were heading down to Tallahassee. It was our first race of the season. We were kind of just, you know, shaking the legs off, getting back to racing after a long summer for some of us. But, you know, from my point of view, from the last track season, I raced at the Olympic Trials in Britain pretty late into the summer, at least compared to what I was used to. So it was a pretty quick build up and a quick transition to this race. There's always great competition when I'm racing my teammates, you know, at Stanford. But there was also, shout out to Adrian Wildschut from FSU, who I knew was going to be great going into it. So with a couple workouts in the legs, some great base from hitting high mileage, you know, on campus in a couple weeks before, we headed down there. It was kind of a very strange race. I was with Wildschut, I think, for a couple laps, and then it spread way out. So he was alone, I was alone behind him, and I'm pretty sure Cole and Thomas were fighting for third and fourth. But it was kind of probably, I would say, the loneliest race of the season in terms of there's no one around you for a lot of it. And I think that was kind of nice starting the season that way because it was really just getting a solid effort in on the most important course of the year, because that's where we were going back to for nationals. And when I was alone out there, you know, in a race situation that was kind of confusing because there were no other people around me, I feel like it really helped me to focus on the course and focus on the course from a racing perspective. I was able to kind of feel it out, and it's a course I've run ever since I moved to the States. So I'm very familiar with, you know, most parts of it, but more so as a 5K than an 8K or a 10K. So I thought that was a really valuable experience. Not the most exciting meet. We won it as a team, if I'm remembering correctly, so that was awesome. I'm gonna sort the Florida man into, I've got a dude wrestling a gator to symbolize our introduction to Florida, a place to be important later in the season. And I'm going to sort it into the B tier. We had a good start, not the most exciting meet, but we also had a team win. I got my butt kicked pretty bad by Wildschut, so back and forth, a couple of things I would say. There's positives and negatives, but it was a great learning experience. A lot of valuable information that we were able to use later in the season. I thought it was incredibly important that we ran it. So the next race we ran was Nutty Cone up in Wisconsin. I guess it's kind of over in Wisconsin from California. It's a really famous race on, you know, a very prestigious course within cross country, and it's one that I'd heard about forever but never had a chance to run it myself. I was incredibly excited to run the course, but also kind of like FSU, I knew there was going to be great competition as well. Iowa State with Wesley Kiptoo, and you had Oregon with Aaron Bienenfield and Cooper Tier. And as always, my Stanford teammates were there. making life tough for me. So it was a meet I was really excited about going into it, and it did not disappoint. I thought the course was phenomenal. A lot of loops, but the loops were, very honest, very tough. There was a steep incline as soon as you got down the first straightaway, and then another one, right after that. So there was a lot of, the course doing work, which I think is such a valuable part of cross country. Because in track, it's all about the big moves, the big players. You're either tiring someone out or you're dropping them, at a tactical point in the race. But what I love about cross country is when the environment plays a role as well. And I thought Nutty Cone was a great example of that. I know I myself was getting dropped. Kip 2 shot straight out to the front, and then there was just a really big chase pack for the longest time that kind of separated about 6K into the race. It felt like there was kind of a fight for second. I'm sure everyone in the pack would have loved to chase down Kip 2, but it didn't really feel like the right time in the season to be investing that kind of effort. There's so much talent in the chase pack as well that nobody really wanted to be the guy to string it out and then get out kicked by everyone, and then also end up not getting Kip 2 by the end of the race. And all credit to him. He set an amazing pace that the chase pack just could not catch. I believe I ended up third, kicking down the home stretch with Cooper Tier, which was, a huge confidence booster for me as more of a distance guy, even though it felt like he was jogging at light speed and I was going all out, about half the pace. But the race was exactly what I hoped it would be. A really big step in the right direction from, not racing so well at the FSU invite, but learning a lot, and then racing a little bit better, extracting as much information as possible as well from Wisconsin, and then, applying it to that point in the season where you need to be fit, and that race was the Pac-12 Invitational. But before we get to that, we're gonna rank Wisconsin. I'm gonna say, because I loved the course, I think I had a good race out there, especially for where I was in the season. I loved racing the competition. It was a big step right in the right direction for me. I want to rate it very highly, but also we at Stanford weren't exactly as clinical in the team department. I think we're second in that meet, and we're always trying to go for first. And also just comparing it to, the scale and the caliber of other meets in the season, I think, my experience was so positive. I'm going to put it in the A tier. My experience, I probably had an S tier worth experience, but a regular season meet will really struggle, in my opinion, to get to that postseason level of hype where it's just everybody in their pinnacle shape laying it all out there for a championship. And that segues us really well into the Pac-12 meet, where I've picked a picture of a dude walking up a snow-capped mountain because we were racing at altitude for the first time in my life. With most of my running career being in Florida and then out in California, I have absolutely no idea how to run in altitude. The best experience I had was when we went out to Park City for a couple months, got some good training in there, and I think I was able to get a really good confidence. And also, I sleep in an altitude tent every night, which made me feel like I at least had a chance going up against Colorado athletes who live at about 5,000 feet. But we were racing, I think, 4,500 maybe a little less. Working out at altitude and racing are just not the same. I mean, working out and racing anywhere are very different. So I won't lie, I was very nervous going into this. I was racing guys and it was a super flat course going around these soccer fields and the soccer complex. Also, Pac-12 just has a very small field. So I just didn't know how I was going to react to the altitude. And all I could do was trust in my training, go for it, and as hard as I could fight. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. If you truly succeed at going for it and leaving it all out there, then at a certain point, there's nothing more to be done. I'd done the training, I prepared myself, and all that was left to do was compete. So I went out there, I probably said I went out there for all of these races so far. I got to the start line. That's a good one. These athletes I just had a tremendous amount of respect for were all out there, and it's just one of those surreal experiences where you gotta take a moment and be like, wow, this is really what I'm doing. And it was great. The gun went off. The first lap burned. I've never heard as many guys that I knew were in pinnacle shape breathing that hard 2,000 meters into a race. It was It was crazy, and I felt like I was breathing the hardest. Obviously, you can hear your own breath, but that was making me a little bit nervous. I didn't know if I was fatiguing myself, you know, or straining more than the next guy, but I didn't really have a choice. You have to stay at the front, you have to push and see, you know, what you can do for your team. So we got through another 2K loop. This was an 8K race, by the way. And when we got to 4K, it was still pretty difficult. I just felt like I was getting more and more tired. The pace was not letting up. You know, we were still kind of going for it. We were entering another 2,000 meter loop. We were barely halfway done, and I felt like I was breathing as hard as I possibly could. And then it was really strange, kind of like halfway through the third loop, I just started feeling a lot better. I don't know if something relaxed. I don't know if I got used to the pace, or if I just settled in, turned my brain off. It kind of just felt like I faded away for a little bit, and in a good way, not like faded back, but just took a step outside of myself and just realized that I could handle whatever pain I was feeling in that moment. And as we entered the last lap, I just had this like electric feeling that there's only one lap left, and because I've been breathing so hard for so long in that race, I felt like I could really take, you know, whatever it had left to give. So I think Lala was the first guy to put a surge in, and Cooper and I were holding on with, you know, Kai Robinson and Cole Sproul right behind us. I think Bienenfield was probably in there as well, and Devin Hart. During that lap, all I was telling myself in my head was to hold on to Lala. You know, he's a Colorado athlete. He knows altitude. He literally lives and breathes it. And so I just wanted to see, you know, how he would handle this last lap, how it would play out. But then I just felt so good, and I was feeling this amazing energy, and I just decided to kind of go for it, go to the front for a bit. It just didn't feel all that bad. And so I was at the front, you know, I was kind of in disbelief, and I was like, am I about to pull away? That didn't feel bad at all. And then bam, all of a sudden, Cooper Tier just surges right by me. Some psychological aspect of it just makes me feel horrendous again, and I'm just holding on. He's moving so fast. I already thought we were moving as fast as we possibly could be. Lala's dropping off the back. The crowd is going insane because we're heading towards the home stretch. Not quite into it yet, but there's a long curve that we're going into before the home stretch. Cooper's going so fast. I'm going as fast as I possibly think I can. And then I feel it slow up just this tiny amount as we head into the turn before the home stretch. And just in that moment, I feel like I get my breath for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. And then right before the home stretch, I put in a surge, finishing up a race with a 350 guy. And you're not a 349 guy, you're making a huge mistake. So I try to go into the turn, and my eyes essentially bluffing for what I've got left in the race. And I just, you know, maintain the surge, try and keep going down that home stretch. I'm at altitude, my lungs are basically just for show at this point. It feels like I'm breathing nothing, and somehow a gap forms, and I ended up winning the race, and it was an unbelievable feeling. I've been talking about it for forever now. I'm determined to get to the end of this video, so I'm gonna rank it now. It was an amazing race, an amazing experience. I had a huge opportunity for the first time in my life to learn how I race at altitude, you know, with no acclimation. I'm gonna rank this as an S tier. That was kind of an easy choice, and let's move on. Okay, so the next meet was the region meet. This is gonna be quick and easy. I picked a picture of the Snail Turbo, because that's kind of what it felt like. It was a very weird 10K race where, you know, the goal is kind of to guarantee your team qualifies for nationals. That's more important than anything else by far. But you also know that the nationals is a week away. It's trying to work together and figure out, you know, what's the smartest way we can expend the least amount of energy and make sure that we get the job done. And every other team is doing that, and there's this interesting interplay game theory where, you know, interests to guarantee qualification, but, you know, there's wild card bids below it. There's individuals trying to qualify themselves, and every single person is trying to save up energy for the real race, which is a week away. You gotta learn to love some things sometimes, but I don't love racing like that where, you know, the goal isn't clear. I love when it's, you know, you either gotta do this to make it to the meet, lay it all out there because you'll have time to recover, or you're here to win. Outright simple. That's what I love to do, but I still had fun. Our team ended up winning the meet. I'm gonna sort it into the B tier for the team aspect of it because we made it to nationals, which is very nice. So we got 2 more races to talk about. We've got NCAAs, we've got Euros. And I'm gonna get through them as quickly as possible. First of all, we have NCAAs. And what an unbelievable meet. Personally, could not have more significance. If someone sat down and wrote a storybook nationals for me, it wouldn't play out much differently. I mean, the location was unbelievable. It's literally, you know, the very first course of significance to me from when I moved to the US and started this journey so many years ago. It was the Florida State meet, to explain that. We ran it back when I started in 7th grade running the state meet and ran every year all the way until I graduated as a senior. And then to be coming back there, it was a confusing, surreal, and amazing feeling, and just one that, you know, it's almost impossible to express. And the race itself was amazing. It was just mind-bogglingly cool to have. I mean, the athletes I was going up against are guys that I've looked up to for years, and, you know, was like, maybe years down the road I can follow in these people's footsteps, and to be right behind them, hanging with them, running as fast as we were, and as terrible as it felt, there were times in the races where I was just smiling because I just couldn't believe I was there and I was enjoying it so much. And you know, the smile also has tactical advantages where it helps you sort of relax and tolerate the pain that you're experiencing. But just enjoying the moment was so incredible, all the way up until about 5K, when it just became the most painful and horrific experience of my life. I was up with the front pack that I just tried to stay with every push. You know, there were a couple times where I found myself at the front of the race, you know, after the big hill, but I was just really rolling with the punches. Every time someone went with it, I just wanted to tank it, not even think, just go and sit behind them and keep it simple. And I was able to stay with the front pack all the way up until, I want to say 7 or 8K, when a huge push was made going into the last lap and things really stretched out. And I found myself in no man's land with another athlete from Michigan State, Morgan Beadlescombe. And out of nowhere, I thought I was dreaming. He starts talking to me and telling me that we can catch the runner in front of us if we work together. And literally, I've never had an experience like that in my life, where, because I can't imagine being able to talk. I was so tired. So I looked up in disbelief and was like, okay, let's do this. And I tried. I gave it my absolute all to work with him, because I really thought, you know, I was going to drop at that point in the race. But that sort of, you know, that gave me the motivation to push through. And the runner in front of us happened to be Adrian Wildschut. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I apologize, Adrian. We ended up catching him eventually, and Mance, Kiptu, Kyoko finished ahead of us, and Beadlescombe and I were kicking down the home stretch. I ended up pulling away and coming 4th at NCAAs, which, even saying it now, it's been weeks, even saying it now is just unbelievable to me. And moments like those, you really appreciate what all the work is for and the beauty of the sport. And for that reason, coming 4th at nationals is symbolized by the Wendy's 4for4. I couldn't find, I'm gonna admit, I'm really sleepy. I couldn't find a better image. But it's S tier. I loved and hated every second of it in a way that something that you're really passionate about can only make you feel. So NCAAs was an amazing race, you know, as it always was, and S tier for sure. And then finally, we've got the European Championships, which feels like I just raced. It was in Ireland. I was lucky enough to be selected for the U23 team by British Athletics. Huge shout out to them, because I wasn't able to make it over for the trials. So I really felt like I had something to prove. I wanted to honor that decision and the faith they put in me by putting out a good performance, and also honoring the season, the effort my coaches had put in, and all the work my teammates had, you know, training themselves and training each other. You know, we were in Irish turf with 8,000 Irish supporters on this very dense course. It was the most noise I'd ever heard. It was absolutely amazing. Went out so much slower than I was used to. With NCAAs, there was no one really pushing the pace, so that was really interesting. There was a lot more tactics than I was used to as well. A lot of switching around, and you know, I had to be much more aware than I typically am. And so it was really great practice, because I just think that's something I really should be experiencing. And I felt like I learned a lot. I definitely made mistakes here and there when I pushed the regions I pushed, how I took corners, you know, how I handled the mud. But, you know, each of those mistakes is something that I now have the opportunity to not do again in a race where it could potentially affect the outcome more significantly. Because I was still lucky enough to, you know, make the pushes in the right time and have enough left at the end to come away with the win. And I've said this before, one of the craziest things was down the home stretch. There were so many fans, you know, distance running fans, screaming and shouting that there was a pressure in my ears from how loud it was, and I've never felt anything like that. It was absolutely incredible and the perfect way to end the season. I just remember sitting in a restaurant with my dad, I think it was after Brooks PR 2 years ago, or sorry, about 3 or 4 years ago, because I was still in high school, telling him it would be my dream to race for Great Britain, and just how it's been turning out and the experience I'm having so far is so amazing. To be a European champion, even with the asterisks of U23, it is a wonderful feeling. It's something I'm very proud of, and it was the best ending to the season I could have asked for. So for that reason, I'm gonna sort it into the S tier, and that's our season. That's what it looks like. To go back through, just because these pictures are a little confusing, in B tier you have the FSU Invite and the West Regional for NCAAs. In A tier you have Nutty Cone, and in S tier you have Pac-12s, NCAAs, and the European Championships. I thought this was going to be short and sweet, but I ended up going pretty in depth into some of these races. But also, if you guys enjoyed this video and you want me to do it for future seasons, let me know as well, because I thought it was super fun to film, and it's a cool way to look at the season. I've said this before, I'm hoping, you know, with my search for an editor, I will get back to posting more regularly. Once a week is always the goal. It's what I want to do, and it's what I know you guys deserve, so I'm gonna do my absolute best to keep up with that. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, feel free to check out my merch as well. All of it really helps me out, and I always appreciate it. And instead of closing this video with the classic, I'll see you when I see ya, I'm gonna say, I'll see you guys next week. So hopefully 2 months don't go by until my next video. That's my tier list, and I'll see you guys next week.